Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you very much.
非常感谢各位。
But let me first welcome you again, ladies and gentlemen. For your listening pleasure, we are honored to present a Swiss cultural performance by Evelyn and Christina Brunner, marking the prelude to the formal opening of the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Christina, Evelyn, please. Good morning, Excellencies, Mr. President, distinguished delegates, esteemed guests, colleagues, and friends. My name is Richard Gutierrez, Program Officer with the Minamata Convention Secretariat, and it is my honor to serve as your Master of Ceremonies for this opening ceremony. We extend our sincere appreciation to the government of Switzerland for their generosity, for their generous hospitality and continued support of the Minamata Convention. We are also grateful to the talented performers, Evelyn and Christina Brunner, for sharing with us a beautiful expression of Swiss culture. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our distinguished speakers who will deliver their opening remarks. Please welcome State Secretary Kathrin Schneeberger, Director of the Swiss Federal Office for the Environment, Transport and Energy and Communications. Kathrin.
Mr. President, dear Deputy Executive Director of UNEP, dear Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention, Excellencies, dear colleagues, welcome to Geneva and welcome to the 6th Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention. Mercury is a highly toxic heavy metal with severe adverse effects on human health and the environment. Releases of mercury persist and accumulate in the environment for centuries, readily crossing borders and impacting the lives of countless generations. Children are especially vulnerable to its toxic effects, even at the lowest levels of exposure. The adoption of the Convention was a historic milestone for global environmental governance, not only because of the urgency of addressing mercury pollution, but also because of the full life cycle approach that parties agreed to accept. The Convention's life cycle approach remains one of its strongest features. It ensures that mercury is addressed at every stage, from extraction and trade to use, recycling, and disposal. The structure of the Convention is a model for global environmental governance, one that can and should serve as a blueprint for addressing other pollution challenges. Switzerland is proud to have played a significant role in establishing the Minamata Convention. We have consistently supported efforts under the treaty and remain committed to fostering international cooperation to tackle mercury pollution. Now, at the 6th meeting, we have the opportunity to further strengthen the Convention. The outcomes of deliberations on phasing out dental amalgam, on the trade in mercury compounds, and on ensuring the Convention's financial stability will be crucial steps. As we move forward, strengthening synergies among the chemicals and waste cluster should remain a guiding priority. The Minamata Convention and the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions are deeply interconnected. Each contributes to a safer and more sustainable future. And together, they are greater than the sum of their individual parts, able to form the backbone of an effective global regime to address pollution. In this context, the adoption of the Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, waste and pollution last June marks an important advance. This new panel will reinforce the global chemicals and waste cluster. It will equip member states with the scientific evidence and information needed to take informed decisions at the right time. By bridging science and policy, the panel will also play an important role in enabling timely and effective international responses to pollution, including from the Minamata Convention. Geneva will continue to play a unique role in global efforts on chemicals, waste and pollution. It is home not only to the secretariats of the Minamata Convention and of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Conventions, but also to the Global Framework on Chemicals, UNEP's Chemicals and Health Branch, and the World Health Organization, among many other key actors. This concentration of institutions fosters daily opportunities for strengthening the coherence and effectiveness of our collective efforts. Excellencies, dear colleagues, the Minamata Convention stands as a clear example of what can be achieved when nations work together, guided by science and a shared sense of responsibility. Let us build on this spirit throughout the week ahead. Protecting human health and the environment from mercury is a collective journey that demands vision and partnership. I wish you a productive and inspiring conference. May your decisions here in Geneva bring us closer to a world free from the harmful effects of mercury. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, State Secretary Schneeberger. I now invite Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations and Deputy Executive Director of the United Nations Environment Program, Elizabeth Mrema, to deliver her remarks. Elizabeth.
Good morning, all distinguished delegates. Her Excellency Ms. Katrin Schneeberger, State Secretary of Switzerland, Mr. Oswald Perez, our COP16 Minamata Convention, for the Minamata Convention President, Monica Stansquitz, Executive Secretary of Minamata Convention, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues. Let me begin by expressing UNEP's sincere appreciation to the government of Switzerland, represented here by Katrin, for its steadfast and generous support. Switzerland's commitment to UNEP, to the family of multilateral environmental agreements based here in Geneva, to our regional office of Europe for Europe here in Geneva, to UNEP's global programs, have been instrumental in advancing international environmental cooperation and action globally. As we gather here in Geneva, it is befitting to reflect on why we are united under the Minamata Convention. The poet Alexander Pope once observed, and I quote, that mercury is one of the most powerful and excellent things in the world in skillful hands, in unskillful and the most mischievous, end of quote. How true that is. Mercury has saved our industries, our medicines, even our mirrors, yet it has also poisoned our rivers, silenced birds, and entered the blood of generations. In 1956, doctors in Japan were alarmed by an outbreak of an unknown disease which resulted in paralysis, coma, and death, not just among humans, but also animals. The source was identified as mercury pollution from industry, and the name of the town became the name of the disease, Minamata syndrome. The cleanup efforts was intense, and the years of research followed. The science went hand in hand with political efforts to prevent this tragedy from ever happening again. The Minamata Convention, therefore, stands as a testament to that conviction. Adopted in 2013 and entered into force in 2017, with currently 153 member states or parties under it, for one purpose: to protect human health and the environment from mercury's toxic reach. Already, the results speak for themselves. And we've heard across continents, mercury use in dental practices is being reduced or eliminated. The Libreville commitment is putting an end to mercury-added skin littering products in Africa, and industrial processes such as chlor-alkali plants are embracing cleaner technologies, proving that change, once thought too difficult, it's actually entirely possible. The convention also tackles the difficult issue of artisanal and small-scale gold mining, where the profit motive is powerful, resisting change. Here, the engagement of indigenous peoples and local communities reminds us that environmental progress and human justice are always interlinked. UNEP is proud to stand with all of you in driving this transformation. From mining to energy, cosmetics to industry, we are working to detoxify supply chains, to foster innovation, and to create opportunities for growth. We are bringing to bear our technical expertise, our convening power, and our global partnerships, not only to support compliance with Minamata Convention, but to spark a wider reimagining of what sustainable production can mean. Science remains our compass. Through global data, inventories, and knowledge hubs, UNEP helps countries to understand the full picture of mercury use and emissions, laying the foundations for informed and effective action. This work feeds directly into the Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste, and Pollution, ensuring that mercury stays high on the world environmental agenda. Just as vital are the connections we build across conventions, from the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm conventions to the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework and the broader efforts to control pollution. Through the Global Environmental Facility portfolio, exceeding over $105 million, and new projects already in development, we are demonstrating what a truly integrated approach can achieve: cleaner industries, restored ecosystems, and stronger communities. And this year marks 20 years of UNEP's leadership through the Global Mercury Partnership. 2 decades, imagine, of science, of cooperation, and of practical solutions. And nearly over 300 partner organizations have helped make mercury management a shared global mission. Your work here is vital to that vision. It reminds us that environmental progress is not the work of one country alone, or one agency, or one generation. It is patient, collective act of humanity choosing to do better and better together. So let us approach the future with renewed purpose and courage, and let us build on what we have learned and carry that knowledge into every mine, every factory, every river, and every community. Let us prove that mercury, once the measure of carelessness, can become a symbol of our own care. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Assistant Secretary General and Deputy Executive Director Marema. I now welcome Executive Secretary of the Minamata Convention, Monica Stankiewicz, to the podium. Monica.
Thank you so much, and good day, everyone. Excellency Kathleen Schneeberger, State Secretary, Mr. Osvaldo Alvarez Perez, our President of the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Parties, and Ms. Elizabeth Mrema, Deputy Executive Director of UNEP. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, and friends, it's a really great honor to welcome you to the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Parties of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. And since we last met in this very hall 2 years ago, parties have continued turning words into action. Thanks to your leadership, mercury-added products are becoming a thing of the past. Mercury is no longer used in most industrial processes as safer alternatives become increasingly available, and awareness is growing across societies. And the number of parties joining the convention is rising steadily, now at 153. We come together at a decisive moment with serious challenges ahead. Illegal trade in mercury persists, emissions from artisanal and small-scale gold mining are on the rise, and mercury still finds its way into use in cosmetics. And these are not abstract problems. They affect people's health, livelihood, and the environment. And this is why the heart of our convention lies with those who are the most vulnerable to mercury exposure and who are the most disproportionately affected by it: indigenous peoples, local communities, women, and children. We also know that strong implementation requires strong support, and the Global Environmental Facility, one part of the convention financial mechanism, has been a cornerstone of this convention from the beginning. We have been very pleased with the very high allocation to Minamata Convention within GEF 8, which enabled a broader range of projects aligned with evolving needs. And it's essential that this support continues and expands under GEF 9, as the majority of the parties must fulfill most of their obligations by 2030 or shortly thereafter. The specific international program, the CEIP, the other part of the financial mechanism of the convention, has become a best practice model among multilateral environmental agreements and has proven its value time and again. Let me express my sincere gratitude to the donors to the CEIP: Austria, Denmark, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. I would also like to express my gratitude to the donors to the Special Trust Fund, supporting the programmatic work during this biennium: Canada, European Union, Finland, Germany, Japan, the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and Switzerland. And finally, I would like to thank our host country, Switzerland, for the steady support to the convention and generosity enabling delegates from all regions to take part in this meeting. And this is not to be underestimated at the time of financial constraints as we face today. Partnerships remain the backbone of our progress, and as we have heard, during this year we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Global Mercury Partnership. The convention governance structure is lean, focused, and designed to avoid duplication. And from the very beginning, the Minamata Convention has been built on strategic partnerships that has grown stronger and expanded over time. Mercury is part of the broader chemicals and waste agenda, and is also deeply intertwined with efforts in human health, biodiversity, climate change, mineral resources, trade, law enforcement, consumer protection, and human rights. I thank all partner organizations for joining us in addressing shared challenges and warmly welcome you to this COP. This year, I had the privilege to attend all regional preparatory meetings, listening closely to parties' experiences and priorities. And this COP builds on that shared work, a collective baseline from which we can aim even higher. I remain deeply optimistic that the Minamata Convention will continue to make a positive impact on the people's life everywhere, and will serve as a shining example of multilateral cooperation and a model of an actionable multilateral environmental agreement. Thank you, and I wish you all a productive and inspiring week.
Thank you, Executive Secretary Stankovic. It is now my pleasure to invite the President of the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Parties, Osvaldo Alvarez, to address the plenary.
Gracias.
Good morning and good day, distinguished members of the Minamata family. It's a great pleasure for me to have this opportunity to make a brief address to you on the critical issue of mercury pollution and the progress which we've made to eliminating it under the Minamata Convention. Mercury continues to be a dangerous, toxic substance. And this convention is a promise that we've made together all around the world to protect the health of our people and the environment in which they live. To be frank, let me go straight to brass tacks. The convention began in 2017, and it focuses on 3 basic strategies. All of those are and remain relevant as we move into this very important phase of our meetings. Firstly, to stop mercury at source, and that includes in the extractive industries and the industries which produce mercury as a byproduct. Secondly, eliminate mercury-containing products from circulation. And thirdly, to reduce and, insofar as possible, eliminate unplanned emissions into the soil, our waters, or the air. These strategies are accompanied by specific and measurable targets and deadlines. Articles 3, 4, and 5 of the Minamata Convention lay down the rules for the supply of mercury, industrial products, and industrial procedures, respectively. The progress we've made in respect of these reference points can and must be followed up on and made obligatory. Looking forward, and following updates made at COP4 and COP5, the use of mercury will, by 2037, be highly restricted for most of the parties, limited mainly to dental amalgam, a few select industrial processes, and small-scale gold production. We need to apply our controls as we stipulated that we would do. Having said that, we still face significant challenges. The rapid growth of artisanal gold mining, sources of mercury, and persisting trade in mercury-containing products are threatening to undermine the efforts we are making and the progress we've already achieved. Furthermore, we must focus on unintentional releases of mercury, which are a threat to human health and to the health of the planet in general. In preparing for the next round of financing for the GEF, this is an excellent opportunity. This whole meeting is we can overhaul our financial systems, better join up the dots, have significant indicators by which to measure success, and thereby ensure that the convention is made more successful through the taking of specific and measurable actions. I cordially urge all the participants in this COP to build upon the collective achievements we already have made and to tackle the challenges we still face with determination. We should run our discussions in a way which is effective and which shows respect for each and every viewpoint held in this room. A respectful discussion which is detailed and focused will help us to take decisions which will protect the human race and the planet on which it lives. Thank you very much.
We extend our sincere appreciation to this morning's distinguished speakers and to the performers for their inspiring contributions to this opening ceremony. And I'd like to invite you all to give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much. I now invite our speakers to gather for a commemorative photograph, if you may. And following the photo, the State Secretary and the UNEP Deputy Executive Director will leave the podium. May I invite the photographer for a commemorative photo for our speakers? Just a quick one. Okay. Thank you. So, as we prepare for the curtain raiser video, I would like to inform you that the podium will be reset by our colleagues from UNON, and we appreciate your patience during this brief transition. So as we are preparing the podium reset, I'd like to ask that the curtain raiser be played. Please enjoy the short video presentation prepared by the Secretariat to mark the opening of COP6. Thank you very much.
In these 8 years, mercury-added products have been phased out. Mercury-free alternatives are increasingly accessible, and safer industrial practices are being adopted. These achievements by parties have led to reduced demand for mercury in industries and less emissions and releases to the environment. However, further strong and urgent action is needed to protect ecosystems and present and future generations, and in particular people vulnerable to mercury exposure.
The GEF is proud to have been supporting the parties to implement the Minamata Convention since the beginning of the journey. From collaborating with indigenous people to eliminate mercury from artisanal and small-scale mining to involving private sector and industry to address mercury emissions and releases. We are supporting countries to strengthen policy coherence to break free from mercury. This directly affects people's lives as well as the environmental conditions across the country we support.
I am committed to working with all parties to find common ground and protect people and the environment from the dangers of mercury pollution. By joining forces to put the Minamata Convention into action, alongside other environmental efforts, we can face shared challenges head-on and make a bigger difference.
I have high hopes for COP6 this November in Geneva. We need to keep ambition high and tackle challenges in trade, use of mercury in cosmetics, dental fillings, and artisanal and small-scale gold mining. We can do more and better to engage indigenous peoples, local communities, women, and youth. The goal is to make mercury history for everyone, everywhere.
All right. Now is on. Good morning again. So let's begin. We heard messages from State Secretary Schneeberger, Ms. Marema, the Deputy Executive Director of UNEP, our Executive Secretary. Now it's my honor to welcome every one of you to the sixth meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. I will also like to acknowledge the rapporteur for this meeting and Vice President Saeed Ahmed Al-Sarani from Saudi Arabia. So Saeed will be joining us on the podium following the regional statements. With your continued support and collaboration, I wish for all of us together that this meeting proves to be productive and impactful. Let me also express my heartfelt appreciation to all parties for their unwavering commitment to the objective of this convention and to its implementation. So now, I open the sixth meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Before proceeding to item 2, organizational matters, I will give the opportunity for statements. Please note that to make good use of time, as agreed by the Bureau and communicated to all parties, I invite statements to not exceed 3 minutes. May I now invite speakers who would like to deliver regional statements to press your microphones, and I will call you in order to make your intervention. So first on my list is Mexico, speaking on behalf of the group of Latin America and Caribbean countries. Mexico, you have the floor.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, President, and congratulations on your appointment. For Mexico, it's an honor to speak on behalf of the Latin American and Caribbean group. We are grateful to the government of Switzerland for its hospitality and to the Secretariat and to the officers for their work in guaranteeing the smooth running of this meeting. Our region would like to reiterate its commitment to the full implementation of the Minamata Convention and to the strengthening of multilateralism in environmental matters. On the production and trade in mercury, we would like to underscore the importance of maintaining strict control over its supply and over its cross-border movement. We therefore welcome the preliminary report on the trade, supply of and demand for mercury and efforts made in order to support the evaluation of the effectiveness of the Convention. We should like to repeat our commitment to the submission and evaluation of data, acknowledging the need to strengthen the creation of countries' ability to comply with their obligations. We would like to highlight that at the moment our region is working on a project with the GEF, which will estimate the trade flows in mercury involving 6 countries and reduce illicit traffic. On annexes and amendments in accordance with Annex A, we agree on the importance of making progress towards the elimination of mercury-containing products, particularly cosmetics, and to continue conversion of industrial processes in application of Annex B. We'd also like to highlight the progress made on the gradual elimination of mercury in dental amalgam, although additional measures are going to be required to bring about full elimination. We would also like to underscore the need to reduce social and environmental risks related to small-scale and artisanal informal gold mining and the extraction of gold and mercury ore. It is essential that we use processes which do not involve the use of mercury and to increase traceability and trackability throughout the supply chain. This also means due diligence performed by all involved. We urge all parties to recognize the time given for all of us to build on our commitments to take effective measures which will move us forward towards the total elimination of mercury in the deadline set. Obviously, additional financing, predictable financing and sustainable financing will be necessary to boost capacity in countries and further the transfer of technology so that countries can eliminate waste containing mercury in an environmentally friendly way and continue to work to find alternatives to the use of mercury in various industrial processes. We would highlight the need for work to be done regionally and sub-regionally using synergies between the various Basel and Stockholm coordination centers. This is necessary if we are to learn from experience countries have already had and achieve a more lasting and substantial impact from our work. Indigenous peoples, and I must underscore this, President, and local communities are particularly vulnerable because they are very much exposed to the effects of mercury. Women and children also suffer from it more than others, especially when you're in an area where products containing mercury are used and artisanal mining is underway. The full and equitable participation of these especially vulnerable groups in our work are essential if we are to fully accomplish the application of the Minamata Convention. Last but not least, we must use synergies between our convention and other international conventions and agreements, and that includes the Basel, Stockholm and Rotterdam conventions and other international documents dealing with toxic substances and waste, plus the IAEA. If we do this, we will be able to move in a more integrated way towards global environmental sustainability. In conclusion, President, we are very happy to see someone from Chile chairing this COP, and we would like to express our full confidence in your leadership. Our region is here in order to support that leadership and to make a constructive contribution to the success of this conference. We firmly believe that in strengthening the Minamata Convention, we will also be strengthening multilateralism in the wider sense, enhancing cooperation between countries, reinforcing the effect of the work done by our institutions, and bringing, and this is the most important, great benefits to all our people. Thank you, sir.
Muchísimas gracias a México.
Many thanks to the delegation of Mexico, speaking on behalf of the Latin American and Caribbean Countries Group. I will now turn the floor to Saudi Arabia for the Asia-Pacific region.
Mr. President, Excellency, distinguished delegate, good morning. It is an honor to deliver this statement on behalf of the Asia-Pacific Group. We extend our profound gratitude to the Government of Switzerland and Secretariat of Minamata Convention for their exceptional hospitality and the exemplary organization of the 6th Conference of the Parties. Our deliberation must remain firmly anchored in establishing the international principle of common but differentiated responsibility as enshrined in the preamble of the Convention, as well as the Rio Declaration and the imperative of the sustainable development. It is essential that all policies, action, and decision adapted here recognize the diverse national circumstances, priority, and capacity constraint, particularly those affecting developing countries and countries with economies in transition. Upholding the principle of equity is paramount to ensuring the implementation is fair and does not impose a burden on vulnerable nations. The Asia-Pacific Group underscores the necessity of inclusiveness and consensus on our decision-making process, the richnesses of our collective perspective, and represent a crucial strength. Through constructive dialogue and genuine collaboration, we can achieve the outcomes that are balanced, equitable, and universally supported by all parties. We recognize the indispensable role of the trade and advancing the global sustainable development goal. Consequently, any trade-related measure, including the unilateral coercive action, must strictly adhere to provision of the international law and establish trade principle. Such measure should serve to support rather than impede the Convention objective, ensuring they are not employed as distinguished barrier to trade under the guise of environment action. We welcome the discussion in the COP regarding establishing a process to consider regulating the trade of mercury component among parties that will help in effectively tracking the mercury component to achieve Minamata Convention objective. In this regard, we reaffirm our commitment to implementing the Bali Declaration, which strengthens the international cooperation and combating global illegal trade of mercury. We call upon all members to ensure its implementation. The Asia-Pacific Group reaffirms its unwavering commitment to Minamata Convention. We stress that provision of predictable and accessible financial and technical support is imperative for the effective implementation of the Convention. Discussion regarding future obligation should proceed concurrently with the substantive consideration on the means of implementation. This including capacity building tailored to national need, technology transfer on mutually agreed term, timely and adequate financial assistance from the Global Environment Facility, GEF, and other relevant mechanisms. These elements are important for achieving the particular, efficient, and equitable fulfillment of the Convention mandate across all parties through their national plan and priority. We must avoid duplication and seek complementary among relevant multilateral environment agreement and program. Mr. President, at this pivotal COP6 session, the Asia-Pacific Group recommit to engage constructively with all parties and stakeholders. Together, we can make mercury history for benefit of the person, for the benefit of present and future generation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saudi Arabia. On behalf of the Asia-Pacific Group, now I have the pleasure to invite to take the floor the European Union to deliver their statement.
Mr. President of the 6th Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention, Madam Executive Secretary, distinguished delegates. I have the honor of addressing the 6th Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury on behalf of the European Union and its 27 member states. We would like to extend our sincere gratitude to the President of the Conference of the Parties, the Bureau, the Executive Secretary, and the Secretariat for their work to organize this meeting. We also thank Switzerland, our generous host country, for the warm welcome and hospitality. The Minamata Convention stands as a testament to the power of multilateral cooperation in addressing a global challenge that knows no borders. It represents a powerful instrument in our collective efforts to prevent and reduce mercury pollution, which continue to pose significant risk to human health and the environment. We reaffirm that protecting human health and the environment is not just a duty, but a shared responsibility. It is a collective commitment that must transcend political boundaries and national interests. With that in mind, we remain hopeful that we at this Conference of the Parties again can make significant progress and take steps to further implement and develop the Convention. This includes strengthening the trade provisions by initiating a process to include mercury compounds under the export provisions established by the Convention, and to phase out the use of mercury in the production of vinyl chloride monomers as technically and economically feasible alternatives are available. Over the course of previous conferences of the parties, we have engaged in constructive discussions regarding dental amalgam, and we hope to make further progress on this important issue. In the European Union, we have followed a stepwise approach toward the elimination of dental amalgam, beginning with its prohibition for use in pregnant women and children, and has now been extended to a ban covering the general population, with exemptions only for specific medical uses. We recall the importance of the Gender Action Plan and hope also to take steps to further strengthen the synergies among the multilateral environmental agreements, including with the Global Biodiversity Framework and the BRS Conventions, and also welcome the establishment of the Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste, and Pollution in this regard. In conclusion, we wish to reiterate our commitment to ensuring a successful outcome for this 6th Conference of the Parties. We are here to work collectively and constructively with the aim of translating our discussions into action in the efforts to protecting human health and the environment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you to the representative of the European Union for that statement. Now I give the floor to Georgia, the representative of Georgia, to deliver the statement on behalf of the Eastern European states.
Distinguished President of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury, Executive Secretary, Excellencies, delegates, observers, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank our host country, Switzerland, the President, the Secretariat, and the members of the Bureau for preparing this meeting and the opportunity to share our key messages. We thank the members of the subsidiary bodies for their dedication and commitment to ensuring smooth implementation during the intersessional period. We would also like to thank the donors who make it possible for some of the countries in our region to be fully engaged in this work of the COP6. This is also a great opportunity to welcome 2 new parties from our region to the Minamata family. Please allow me to welcome the Republic of Serbia and Ukraine, and we wish them successful implementation of the Convention. In the light of fulfillment of the obligations under Minamata Convention, its critical role of the specific international program to support capacity building and technical assistance. Within the 4th round, SIP Governing Board deliberated on the 29 eligible applications received and approved 10 projects amounting to USD 2,020,600, of which 2 are from our region, Montenegro and Georgia. We would like to emphasize the significance of regional collaboration, partnership, and synergy with other multilateral environmental agreements such as BRS conventions, Kunming-Montreal Global Diversity Framework, Global Framework on Chemicals, Intergovernmental Science Policy Panel on Chemicals, Waste, and Pollution. We look forward to having a productive meeting and fruitful discussions over the coming week and sharing our experiences in a broader scale with countries in other regions as well. Mr. President, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Georgia, on behalf of the Eastern European states. Let me give the floor now to Sierra Leone on behalf of the Africa Group.
Thank you, Mr. President. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, observers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I have the honor to speak on behalf of the African region. At the outset, allow me to express our sincere gratitude to the government and people of Switzerland for hosting this important meeting, and to the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention for the excellent preparations and tireless efforts in facilitating our work. We also thank you, Mr. President, for your able leadership and guidance, and extend our appreciation to the Bureau, committees, and working groups for their dedication in advancing the Convention's objectives. Mr. President, the African region reaffirms our commitment to the Minamata Convention objective of protecting human health and the environment from the harmful effects of mercury. For our region, mercury pollution remains a serious challenge, particularly from artisanal and small-scale gold mining, mercury-added products, trade in mercury compounds, and the management of mercury waste. The African region welcomes the progress and approaches made since COP5 for this meeting, with determination to strengthen implementation and accelerate the transition towards a mercury-free future. On supply sources and trade, we support the proposed updates to import and export forms and call for additional improvements, including customs endorsements, automation of consent procedures, and the inclusion of mercury compounds not yet discovered under Article 3. We request technical support for countries to develop regulations to prevent illegal trade in mercury and mercury-added products. We further welcome the study on global mercury compound trade and request that the Implementation and Compliance Committee review its findings, especially on the additional compounds, and make recommendations to COP7. On mercury-added products, the African region supports the listing of dental amalgam in Annex A, Part 1, with a clear phase-out date of 2030. We need to end the use of dental amalgam in government insurance programs by matching with equally ambitious means of implementation, specifically financial supports under this convention. We call on parties that have not yet phased out dental amalgam to submit national action plans or reports under Article 21 on progress made towards the phase down or phase out of dental amalgam. The African region welcomes the initiative from Gabon and supports the Libreville commitments on the elimination of mercury-containing skin lightening cosmetics in Africa, on advancing work related to mercury-added cosmetics. Mercury-containing cosmetics, particularly skin lightening products, pose a serious risk to human health and the environment. We therefore support the measures proposed in the Gabon CRP to strengthen legislation, institutional capacity, and enforcement mechanisms. We thank WHO, UNEP, GEF, and other partners, and encourage continued collaboration among them to ensure a coordinated and effective response that combines public health, environment, and education. We further call for the phase-out of mercury use in vinyl chloride monomer production within 5 years, given that mercury-free alternatives are both available and feasible. Mr. President, the African Group believes extension of exemptions requests are largely national compliance issues that could be best handled by the Implementation and Compliance Committee, rather than through new exemptions that could weaken the Convention's integrity. On mercury waste, the African region supports maintaining the current 15 milligrams per kg interim threshold, while initiating a scientific review towards a more health protective value. We urge stronger cooperation between the Minamata, Basel, and Bamako conventions, and prioritization of funding under the GEF and SIP to strengthen environmentally sound waste management across the region. On financial resources and mechanisms, Africa recognizes the vital role of the Global Environment Facility and the specific international program. We call for adequate predictable, and accessible support under JEF 9, and strongly support extending the SIP for 7 years beyond 2027 for effective implementation of the Convention. The African region requests that let there be an establishment of a contact group on financial matters, as the availability of finance is critical and prerequisite to the effective implementation of the Convention. In this regard, the contact group should be established to discuss the following items on the following priority order. 1, the establishment of a dedicated global program similar to the global program on the elimination of PCB under the Stockholm Convention to assist developing countries parties to eliminate dental amalgam and shift to safer alternatives. 2, the review of the JEF financial mechanism to assess the adequacy of the financial resources provided for the implementation of the obligations. As the SIP's mandate is ending in 2027, the extension of the SIP for another 7 years to 2034. In this regard, the region will submit a CRP on the establishment of a dedicated global program on the elimination of dental amalgam for developing countries. The region acknowledges the work and draft reports of the open-ended scientific group during the intersessional period. This important work will form the basis of what the effectiveness evaluation group will require to establish if the Convention is working towards the main goal as mentioned in Article 1. Finally, the African region supports 5% budget increase for the 2026-2027 biennial to sustain essential Convention activities and recommends setting clear deadlines for party contributions to enable effective delivery of the Secretariat's work. Mr. President, the African region stands united and resolute in its commitments to the Minamata Convention. We look forward to working with all parties to make COP6 a milestone towards a mercury-free world, one founded on science, fairness, and solidarity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Sierra Leone, on behalf of the Africa region. So that ends the regional statements segment at the opening of the COP. Let's now move to agenda item 2, organizational matters, and let's begin with 2A. So I invite the COP to consider agenda item 2A, adoption of the agenda. So the plenary has before document 1, Rev 1, which contains the provisional agenda, INF document 3, which is the annotated provisional agenda, and INF document 4, which is the tentative schedule of work for this COP. So the provisional agenda, as usual, has been prepared in agreement with me and taking into account the feedback that we received from Bureau members. According to Rule 13 of the Rules of Procedure of the Conference of the Parties, the meeting may decide to add, delete, defer, or amend agenda items. However, only items which are considered by the meeting as urgent and important may be added. It is possible to discuss issues under agenda item 8, other matters, as time allows. The Conference of the Parties is now entering in decision-making mode. This means that I will only give the floor to parties. Does any party wish to propose an amendment to the agenda? I see no requests for the floor. Then the agenda is adopted. Now that the agenda has been agreed, we can move to agenda item 2B, organization of work. So before I invite the Secretariat to take the floor, I would like to highlight a few things. The tentative schedule of work has been discussed by the Bureau and shared widely with participants through Information Document 4. Information Document 3 provides the annotations to the agenda that we just adopted. So we have a busy schedule this week. In terms of the organization of work, I suggest the COP to meet in plenary as per normal practice from 10 in the morning to 1 p.m. and in the afternoon from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. every day until Friday, November 7th. Each morning from 8 a.m. to 8:45, the Bureau will meet to, among other things, agree to the order or business of the day. Regions will meet from 9 a.m. to 9:45, so we will be ready to start plenary at 10. I would like to outline how the meetings will proceed with the adoption of decisions in plenary. 1. Concerning items not requiring further discussion, the COP will conclude consideration thereof and adopt related decisions. And 2. For some other items, I may request the Secretariat to gather input and prepare an updated draft decision for consideration, or the COP may wish, for instance, to establish, as necessary, contact or other groups to consider them further and prepare draft decisions. It is my intention to try to limit the number of contact groups established during this meeting so that we can ensure we have a workable program this week. It is also my intention to ensure that there is opportunity for the interest of all delegations to be factored into the discussions, with a maximum of 2 contact groups meeting in parallel or only 1 contact group during times when plenary is in session. Furthermore, some expertise required in the contact groups overlaps, so we will be defining all of these, we will take into account all these factors as we go through. In setting up the schedule, efforts will be made to avoid convening contact groups requiring the same type of expertise in parallel. So regarding budgetary implications, you may all know this, but this is important to be reminded. So the COP will need to ensure that activities mandated in draft decisions have been considered in the proposed program of work and budget for the biennium 26-27. Therefore, the contact group expected to be established for the program of work and budget will be tasked to confirm that the activities included in draft decisions have been taken into account in the program of work and budget for 26-27, or that the decision has no financial implications. The contact group on program of work and budget is to conclude its work on Thursday evening to allow us to adopt the convention program of work and budget for 26-27 on Friday. With all those reminders, I will ask the Secretariat to further explain the proposed schedule of work as well as the overall working arrangements.
Thank you, Mr. President. Information Document 3 provides the annotations to the provisional agenda. A tentative schedule for COP6, Information Document 4, outlines the suggested schedule of work for the meeting as agreed to by the COP6 Bureau. The same schedule is uploaded on COP6 web section under the tab Schedule in PDF and will be regularly updated interactively on the page. COP6 will meet over 5 days, starting today until Friday, the 7th of November. Every day, the meeting will begin promptly at 10 a.m., Provision can also be made for work in the evening from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. The President may see the need to adjust the meeting time of the plenaries to aid the negotiations. The plenary is conducted in the 6 official languages of the UN and live streamed through the convention's COP6 webpage. The Secretariat will post the order of business as decided by the Bureau at its meeting every morning on the dedicated webpage before the regional group meetings. It will also be projected on the screens at the venue. As is standard practice for all Minamata Convention meetings, the present meeting is organized in a paperless manner, with all documents available on the Convention's website shown on the screen. Here you will find all pre-session documents, including all working documents and information documents prepared for COP6. You will find further information on that page on the password-protected area with the following 3 tabs: In Session, Contact Groups, Statements, and Others. Under In Session, you will find conference room papers and later in the week, the draft meeting report. Under Contact Groups, you will find information on the contact groups once established. This includes access to relevant background information and interim outcomes for that contact group. Under Statements and Others, you will find statements that were forwarded to the Secretariat for publishing. To access these 3 areas of the website for the paperless meeting system, you need to enter the username and password as shown, and also shown on the back of your badge, on the back of your badge. In terms of CRPs and statements, CRPs, parties may submit conference room papers, CRPs, by email to the Secretariat. The email is on the screen. Sorry. CRPs will be posted under the password-protected In-Session tab on the COP6 webpage. There is a template available on the website for those wishing to submit CRPs. Regarding your interventions, delegates are encouraged to make concise interventions of no more than 2 minutes. Only interventions that are made orally are considered part of the proceedings. To facilitate interpretation, we invite you to send your interventions in writing ahead of delivery to Abiodun Diajani at un.org and Nelson Kahu as displayed on the screen. In terms of statements, parties or observers may share statements and other information for posting under the Statements and Others tab on the COP6 webpage by emailing them to the Secretariat, and the web address is on the screen. Contact groups and other small groups formed can share documents such as background information and interim results under the Contact Groups tab. Contact group co-chairs can request the responsible Secretariat officer for their group to upload such documents. This meeting will be covered by the Earth Negotiations Bulletin, reporting services, and the Secretariat's communication team. Photographers and videographers will capture meeting activities for reporting and public information purposes. Coverage will be shared on the Convention's official media channels, and you will receive a daily newsletter noting the order of business, events of the day, updates of activities, photos, and videos. You will see the QR code on the screen for the IISD EMB coverage. We encourage you to follow it. The Secretariat would like to take this opportunity to remind participants of a set of 3 guidelines on the Code of Conduct of participants in the Minamata Convention meetings. We do have guidelines on the use of cameras and audiovisual recording devices by participants at the meeting of the COP. The link is on the screen. Guidelines are also available for the participation of representatives of observers at the meeting of the COP, and there is a link on the screen. Finally, there is a code of conduct to prevent harassment, including sexual harassment, at UN system events. The code of conduct provides clarity on the expected behavior of participants in the meeting. This, in turn, will help ensure that the meeting proceeds in an orderly manner. The Secretariat is available if you have any questions, and if one of you or any participant has any concern in relation to the conduct of meeting participants, please feel free to reach out to myself or Richard Gutierrez in the Secretariat We are the focal points, and our names are at the bottom of the screen. Now, a few points on taking the floor in plenary. The nameplates and microphones are configured. Please do not move the nameplates. To request the floor, press the button on your microphone. Your microphone will turn green, and that indicates that you are included in the list of speakers. When given the floor to speak by the podium, your microphone will turn red and activate automatically. There's no need to press the button again while speaking, as this will remove you from the speaker's queue. Once you finish, you can turn off your microphone, or the podium will also do so for you. The electronic queuing system identifies delegations via an ID card inserted into your microphones. Generic observer nameplates have been placed for observer seating towards the back of the plenary hall. Individual nameplates and RFID cards will be issued only to those observers that wish to deliver a statement or make an intervention. Please approach the conference officer's desk at the front of the plenary hall to obtain a nameplate and an RFID card at least 30 minutes before you intend to take the floor, so this can be arranged in due time. This building will be open daily starting at 8 a.m. and groups meeting during the evenings should finish their work by 10 p.m. In terms of daily subsistence allowance, DSA, this will be distributed for paid participants today from 10 a.m. onwards and tomorrow during breaks and lunchtime. This is at the Espace Wangari Maathai, which is on the second floor. In terms of knowledge labs, COP6 will have many sessions and exhibitions that will take place throughout the week. The knowledge labs are from 2 p.m. In the afternoon and at 6 p.m. in the afternoon. In addition, we have 2 special events organized, one by the Secretariat called Driving Effective and Inclusive Implementation of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. It is taking place today during the lunch period. And a second event will be held tomorrow during the lunch period entitled the Planet Gold Program, Learnings and Looking Ahead, and it is hosted by the Global Environment Facility. More information about the COP6 events is available on the website, including on the planned knowledge labs. Finally, we invite you to help us reduce the environmental impact of COP6. For that, we encourage you to consult our Greening the COP section on the COP6 website at the Information for Participants tab. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Brenda, for all that information, lots of information that we need to take into account. So these working modalities are in line with the agreement by the Bureau on how we would proceed, and they have been available to all parties and observers in advance of the meeting on the website. So I now propose that we organize our work according to the approach presented and the schedule annexed to the annotated agenda. Is there any objection to this proposal? Seeing none, it is so decided. I would like to take this opportunity as well to remind delegates of certain procedures that will enhance the flow of communication during the week. First, please remember that we are working on 6 languages. Therefore, it is very important that you take the floor and speak in any of these 6 languages slowly and make a pause between sentences to allow interpreters to fully reflect your intentions. I will seek your understanding and cooperation with the interpreters in this regard. In general, and as a common practice, I will recognize party delegations first, and when interventions from parties are exhausted, we will give the floor to observers who wish to participate in the discussions. The party status to each delegation is visible on your badges. I will inform you in cases that I may deviate from this practice. Bodies and agencies wishing to take the floor during the meeting need to have observer status in this meeting. The observer status is also visible on your badges. I invite any intervention not to exceed the length of 2 minutes, and I really beg your indulgence. Otherwise, I will need to intervene when the statement is exceeding this allowed time. I would like to note that we have set out work to be in official hours, with the possibility to work outside of plenary as needed on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, including in the evening of those days. I would like to urge all parties to use the set time as effectively as possible and utilize the time per agenda items as efficiently as possible as well. I would also like to call for your help that we do not exceed time in the evening beyond 10 p.m. in contact groups. And we also need to be healthy and take care while working towards a successful outcome. In this COP, we will take time to provide special recognition to parties and individuals at the end of several of the plenary sessions. This is a Secretariat initiative that will be done daily to show gratitude to parties and individuals and to promote a positive work environment and spirit at COP6. With that said, we will now proceed to agenda item 2C, election of officers. As you know, before the end of COP6, we are to elect the COP7 Bureau, elect new members for the Implementation and Compliance Committee, and confirm the 10 members of the governing board of the specific international program. I now invite the Secretariat to introduce agenda item 2C relating to election of officers.
Thank you, Mr. President. The documents relevant to this agenda item are listed on the screen. On this matter, I would like to recall that according to the rules of procedure, the COP will need to elect the officers that will represent parties in the next Bureau, which will start office after the closure of this meeting, to cover the intersessional period and COP7. 2 representatives from each of the UN regions shall be elected from among the representatives of the parties present at this meeting. Each of the 5 UN regional groups shall be represented at the Bureau by 2 members. According to Rule 22 of the Rules of Procedure, the offices of the President and Rapporteur shall normally be subject to rotation among the UN regional groups. To recall also is that no officer may serve on the Bureau for more than 2 consecutive terms. I would like to highlight that paragraph 2 of Rule 22 further states that the Bureau members shall be elected from among the representatives of the parties present at the meeting. This COP will therefore also need to elect its next president, COP7 president, and also decide on the rapporteur. The Bureau requests that nominations for the new Bureau members are submitted to the Secretariat before the end of the session tomorrow afternoon. The COP is expected to elect the new Bureau members on Thursday. Further, the COP is also to elect the members of the Implementation and Compliance Committee and to confirm the membership of the governing board of the specific international program. Kindly be reminded that neither the ICC Rules of Procedure nor the CIP Rules of Procedure require the presence of representatives of parties at the COP for their election or confirmation to the respective bodies. Nomination for these 2 bodies should also be submitted before the end of the session tomorrow afternoon to allow smooth elections on Thursday. Please kindly transmit to the Secretariat the names per region for the 3 bodies through the respective designated Bureau members. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara. So I trust that all these procedures that have been outlined for these 3 sets of officers of the Minamata Convention are clear to everybody. To facilitate the process, I would like to underline that the names are to be notified by the respective regional bureau members to the Secretariat, with the exception of the GRULAC region, which has a different mechanism that to be sent by the coordination to the Secretariat before the end of the session tomorrow afternoon. Each of these roles is significant to our convention and to all parties. So I would like to sincerely thank all those that are making themselves available for these important posts. I would wish to express my appreciation, especially to the Bureau members in my Bureau that have been facilitating the process of nominating candidates for election and confirmation. Is there any specific questions regarding election of officers to the COP6 Bureau, the ICC, or the confirmation of officers to the governing board of the SIP? I guess everything is very clear. Thank you very much. Good work, Secretariat. We will now proceed to agenda item 2D, report on credentials. Before inviting the Secretariat to introduce agenda item 2D relating to the report on credentials, I wish to address a warm welcome to the new parties to the convention since COP5. Ethiopia, Kenya, Liberia, Maldives, Mozambique, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Serbia, and Ukraine. I would also like to warmly welcome a future party that will become party after the conclusion of COP6, Israel. Welcome to the Minamata Convention family. So as of the beginning of this meeting, there are 152 parties to the Minamata Convention. For formality's sake, I would like to invite the Secretariat to recall the approach as agreed by the Bureau on submitting and examining credentials.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rule 19 of the Rules of Procedure of the Conference of the Parties provides that the credentials of representatives of parties and the names of alternate representatives and advisors must be submitted to the Secretariat no later than 24 hours after the opening of the meeting. Credentials must be issued either by the head of state or government or by the Minister for Foreign Affairs, or in the case of a regional economic integration organization, by the competent authority for that organization. Representatives of parties may participate provisionally in the meeting pending a decision by the Conference of the Parties on their credentials. The Bureau, with the assistance of the Secretariat, will examine the credentials of the representatives of the parties present at the meeting and report thereon to the Conference of the Parties. The Bureau is to submit its report on credentials to plenary on Thursday, 6 November 2025. Thank you.
Thank you. So I understand that we have received many credentials, so I invite the remaining parties to submit their documents by 10 a.m. tomorrow. That is within 24 hours of the opening of the meeting, as per the rules of procedure. The Bureau will examine the remaining credentials and prepare its report based on the agreed approach and present its report to the meeting on Thursday, 6th of November for adoption. I wish to emphasize that credentials not yet submitted might be given in the original form to the Secretariat. I will invite Rachel Burgess, Bureau member from Australia and the chair of the Credential Committee, to keep the COP abreast of the status of credentials and present the credentials report of the Bureau on Thursday in plenary. Thank you. Let us now turn to agenda item 3, rules of procedure and financial rules. I would like to invite the Secretariat to introduce the matter pertaining to adopted rules of procedure.
Thank you, Mr. President. The documents relevant to this agenda item are listed, will soon be listed on the screen, namely document 3, the rules of procedure as adopted by the COP at its first meeting in 2017. At its first meeting, by decision MC1/1, the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention adopted its rules of procedure as contained in the annex of that decision, with the exception of the second sentence in paragraph 1 and the third paragraph of Rule 45, which is agreed to maintain, and it agreed to maintain the square brackets to indicate that it has not been agreed on it and was of no effect. The Conference of the Parties continued its discussion at its subsequent meetings, that is COP2, COP3, COP4, and COP5, but no formal decision was taken, and the text of the second sentence of paragraph 1 and the third paragraph of Rule 45 remain enclosed in square brackets. The bracketed text remaining in paragraph 1 relates to the option to take a decision on matters of substance by means of voting through should all efforts to reach consensus fail. The bracketed text in paragraph 3 of Rule 45 relates to the mechanism used to decide whether a matter before the Conference of the Parties should be considered a matter of substance or a matter of procedure. Thank you.
Thank you, Lara. So as we were reminded, Rule 45 of the Rules of Procedure contains some bracketed text in its first and third paragraph. With this text remaining in brackets, it remains formally part of the COP's agenda, and the Conference of the Parties will continue to decide on substantive matters by consensus. I suggest that the meeting agree to defer further consideration of the matter to the next meeting. The Conference of the Parties is now entering in decision-making mode. Are there any objections from parties to this way of proceeding? I see no objection. It is so decided. Let's now turn to financial rules. Once again, the Secretariat, please provide an explanation to introduce these matters. Sandra?
Thank you, Mr. President. The documents relevant to this agenda item are listed on the screen, namely document 4, as well as the financial rules as adopted by the COP at its first meeting in 2017 by decision MC1/10. At COP1, the Conference of the Parties agreed to maintain bracketed text to indicate that there was certain text not agreed, but that this had no effect on the functioning of the Conference of the Parties, of its subsidiary bodies, and the Secretariat. The Conference of the Parties continued its consideration of these brackets at COP2, COP3, COP4, and COP5, but no formal decision was taken, and the square brackets remain. What remains in brackets relates to paragraph 3E of Rule 5 on contributions on specific circumstances of which countries to be taken into account regarding measures to take when payment schedules are not jointly decided on or respected. paragraph 2 of the annex to the financial rules on the procedure for the allocation of funding from the Special Trust Fund for facilitating the participation of parties in meetings of the Conference of the Parties, and paragraph 5 of the annex to the financial rules on the preparation of a list of sponsored delegates by the head of the Secretariat. Thank you.
Thank you. So as we were reminded, Rule 5 and the annex of the financial rules contain bracketed text. As the text remains in brackets, as we said before, remains formally part of the COP's agenda. The bracketed text, notwithstanding, the conference has functioning financial rules in place, as you all know. I suggest, therefore, that the meeting agree to defer further consideration of the matter to the next meeting. Once again, the Conference of the Parties is entering in decision-making mode. So we ask any parties that are objecting to this way of proceeding to take the floor. I see no objection. It is so decided. This completes the consideration of agenda item 3. And now we go to the core, beginning with other items, agenda item 4. So let's begin with agenda item 4E on financial resources and the financial mechanism of the Convention. Before inviting the Secretariat to provide information on this agenda item, I would like to acknowledge the Secretariat's briefing that took place yesterday on financial resources and mechanism. I wish to highlight the strong attendance yesterday, and I thank the Secretariat for this initiative. At the briefing, we heard positive sentiments expressed on the progress achieved under Minamata, thanks to the timely availability of resources under the financial mechanism. We also heard appreciation for the JEF 9 replenishment process. I believe this briefing allowed for helpful interaction among delegates on this topic and will help advance our discussions today. So I invite the Secretariat to introduce the relevant documents for this item 4E.
Thank you, Mr. President. The COP has before it 4 working documents related to agenda item 4E. The Secretariat prepares a regular report for each COP on the 2 components of the financial mechanism of the Convention, and this report is contained in Document 9. Document 9 also includes a draft decision prepared by the Secretariat for the consideration of the Conference of the Parties, specifically related to agenda item 4E, sub-items Little Roman 1 and Little Roman 2. Specifically on agenda item 4E, sub-item 1 on the Global Environment Facility, Document 10 contains the Secretariat's update on matters related to the Global Environment Facility Trust Fund in its role as part of the Convention's financial mechanism pursuant to Article 13. In Document 10, Addenda 1, you will find the executive summary of the report of the Council of the Global Environment Facility to the COP for the period of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025. The full report of the JEF Council is contained in Information Document 13. The JEF 9 replenishment negotiations began in early 2025. Once concluded, JEF 9 will run from July 2026 to June 2030. The JEF has provided information on draft strategic positioning and programming direction under the 9th replenishment of the JEF Trust Fund outlined in Information Document 14. The JEF 9 replenishment discussions are conducted fully under the auspices of the JEF, and so parties are invited to make use of the information provided in the context of their national processes relative to the JEF replenishment. Specifically on Agenda Item 4E, Sub-Item Roman 2, the specific international program to support capacity building and technical assistance, Document 11 lays out the support provided by the Secretariat to the SIP, the work of the governing board since COP5, an overview of the status of implementation of the approved projects in the fourth to fourth rounds of the program, and the status of the specific trust fund as of 28th May 2025. We at the Secretariat are proud that the program has translated into 34 approved projects over 4 application rounds. We wish to express our sincere appreciation of the support provided by the donors to the SIP since the establishment of the specific trust fund in 2018, as noted by Monica in her opening remarks this morning. In addition to the Secretariat's report, Information Document 15 includes the reports of the 9th and 10th meetings of the Governing Board of the SIP. The specific international program is open to receive voluntary contributions and applications for support for an initial period of 10 years from the establishment of the specific trust fund in January 2018, pursuant to Decision 1/6. The decision also specifies that the COP may decide to extend the program beyond the 31st December 2027, not exceeding an additional 7 years, taking into account the review process of the financial mechanism in accordance with paragraph 11 of Article 13 of the Convention. The Secretariat has, as requested in Decision 5/11, developed a draft analysis of expected funding needs and related staffing needs for the specific international program that is outlined in Information Document 40. It sets out 2 scenarios for determining expected funding and related staffing needs during the second half of the initial term and the potential extended term of the SIP. The draft decision set out in Document 9 proposes that parties may wish to decide on the potential extension of the SIP for an additional period of 7 years at COP7, and request the Secretariat to work with the Governing Board of the SIP to finalize the current draft analysis for consideration by the COP at its 7th meeting. Finally, specifically on Agenda Item 4E, Roman 3, the review of the financial mechanism, Article 13, Paragraph 11 calls upon the COP to review the financial mechanism on a regular basis and calls for the review to cover the level of funding, guidance, effectiveness, and ability of the financial mechanism to address the changing needs of developing country parties and parties with economies in transition. The first review of the financial mechanism was completed at COP3, the second at COP5, and COP5 requested the Secretariat to draft terms of reference for the third review for consideration at COP6. Because the review encompasses the entire financial mechanism, it covers both the Global Environment Facility and the specific international program. Document 12, Annex 2, sets out the draft terms of reference for the third review of the financial mechanism, building on the terms established for the first 2 reviews, covering the period of August 2022 to June 2026. Annex 1 of the document sets out a draft decision for consideration by the Conference of the Parties. The Conference of the Parties has before it several other related information documents to inform this agenda item. Information Document 16 highlights activities of the special program. Information Document 17 provides an update on the Global Framework on Chemicals Fund. Secretariat, of course, works very closely with these funds to ensure that eligible parties make best use of these sources of financing and that efforts are complementary, and to avoid any duplication of efforts. Finally, Information Document 39 includes a document that is intended to inform the financial mechanism for potential programming resources. It includes a compilation of obligations and associated deadlines under the Convention, as well as information on the status of progress based on national reports submitted under Article 21, as well as information from other sources and party submissions that have been available to us since August 2025. Finally, a CRP from the European Union and its member states Brazil, Norway, and Switzerland is available on the in-session tab in conference room paper 1. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. That was a long introduction of the agenda item. So I would like to welcome the GEF Secretariat to COP6. As we all know, the GEF has been a close partner to the Minamata Convention from the start. The GEF is very important to parties and stakeholders, and we look forward to hearing from you, both on the work of the GEF to support Minamata since COP5, but also on the development of the GEF 9 replenishment. I would like to hand the floor to Ms. Chizuru Aoki from the GEF Secretariat to present the report of the GEF Council to the COP and also to update on the GEF 9 replenishment. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm pleased to present the report of the Global Environment Facility to the 6th Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention on Mercury. Let me start with the status of resource provision and results. In the current GF period, from July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2026, $269 million of GF resources is allocated to support this convention. In the first 3 years of the GEF 8 period presented in the report in front of you, the GEF has programmed $155.5 million across 16 full-size projects and programs, 2 medium-sized projects, and 3 enabling activities. These projects are expected to reduce 911 metric tons of mercury, leveraging $13 in co-financing for every dollar from the GEF. This support is benefiting 45 countries, including 16 least developed countries and 3 small island developing states. As an example, the Gemini program scales mercury elimination in non-ferrous metal supply chains, and the Global Chemicals Monitoring Program is expanding comparable mercury monitoring to strengthen effectiveness evaluation. Furthermore, the portfolio is delivering measurable co-benefits that matter to communities and ecosystems. Projects approved in the period reduced 8,093 metric tons of persistent organic pollutants, POPs, and also ensure environmentally sound disposal of 1.6 million metric tons of POPs and mercury-containing materials, and address 1.1 million tons of plastics. They also contribute to better managed and protected landscapes and avoid significant greenhouse gas emissions. Cumulatively, 120 countries have received support to conduct Minamata initial assessments, and 50 countries have received support for artisanal small-scale gold mining, or ASGM, National Action Plan development. The portfolio addresses key obligations of the convention, namely ASGM, industrial emissions and processes, mercury-based products, mercury-added products, trade, waste, storage, global monitoring, and primary mercury production. Gender equality is integral to design and delivery. Every project starts with a gender-differentiated needs assessment and includes a costed gender action plan or a gender equality and social inclusion framework. Several projects already include gender targets. For example, the non-grant instrument Textiles Finance Window links loan terms to measurable progress for women in management. The GEF is also committed to meaningful engagement with indigenous peoples and also with youth. Stakeholder engagement plans and, where relevant, free, prior, and informed consent guide the GEF's work, with some projects with formal commitments. Youth engagement is built into the portfolio. The Small Grants Program, the SGP, remains a direct channel for indigenous peoples, women, youth to access resources for community-led mercury solutions. Partnership with the private sector is central to use grant financing to unlock scale. The portfolio mobilizes industry as co-investors, supply chain off-takers, technology providers, and financiers with over $1 billion in co-finance leverage to date. Specific examples include 1, $256 million pledged by brands and recyclers in the electronics program, 2, $233 million from non-ferrous smelters participating in the Gemini program, and 3, $13.3 million from certified buyers and cooperatives for Planet Gold, Costa Rica. The GF has responded to COP guidance, including support to parties for ASGM reviews under Article 7, work on mercury trade control, and enabling activities. We have appreciated very good cooperation with the Minamata Convention Secretariat as well as UNEP. Finally, the replenishment negotiations, as mentioned earlier, for the GEF 9 period are ongoing, with the engagement of the Minamata Convention Secretariat. The process will be completed by spring of next year, 2026. The GF is committed to support the Minamata Convention and actions that deliver mercury reductions and to deepen partnerships. Mr. President, we stand ready to support you and parties throughout this COP to contribute to its successful outcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aoki, for delivering this report. So the Minamata Convention financial mechanism is structured to include both the GEF for projects undertaken through implementing agencies as well as the smaller SIP, a direct grant-making mechanism to assist eligible parties in strengthening their capacity at the national level. With thanks to the generous voluntary contributions of 10 donor parties to the convention, the governing board of the SIP was able to launch 4 rounds of applications. I would now like to call on one of the co-chairs of the governing board of the SIP, Andrew Clark, from the United States of America, to reflect as co-chairs on the work of the governing board since COP5 and specifically on the 4th round of applications.
Thank you, Mr. President. As this is my delegation's first time taking the floor, I would like to thank Switzerland for their hospitality this week, the Secretariat for its excellent preparations of this meeting, you, Mr. President, for your excellent leadership and guidance throughout this week, and of course the Bureau for their work in helping organizing us at this meeting. I had the honor of serving as the co-chair of the SIP Governing Board in the board's most recent 2 terms. It was a distinct privilege to serve on the governing board and see the excellent work the SIP is doing in supporting implementation of the Minamata Convention. In particular, in the 4th round of applications, it was good to see so many high-quality projects put forward, and I want to thank the other members of the governing board for their thoughtful and thorough discussions of all the proposals, and the Secretariat for their hard work in organizing the governing board meetings and providing us, the board, with the information we needed to undertake the review. I would also like to thank all donors to the SIP, as well as the countries implementing SIP projects for their important work in advancing implementation of the Minamata Convention. I encourage all parties and observers to visit the Secretariat website, where information about SIP projects is posted to see for yourself the outsized impact this more modest part of the Minamata Convention's financial mechanism has made, and there you can also find detailed information about all projects approved for the 4th round and prior rounds. I am grateful for the opportunity I've had to
Could you slow down a little, please? Thank you.
last 2 terms, and look forward to seeing what good work will happen in the future with the support of the SIP. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for sharing your experience and perspectives. I would like to extend also my gratitude to on behalf of myself and the COP for the work done by you and your other co-chair, Obed Meringo Baloyi from South Africa, and by all the SIP board members on this important body of the convention. So now, in the interest of time, I would like to open the floor for any interventions on both decisions. These are 2 elements for consideration: 1, the decision in document 9 on both components of the financial mechanism, and 2, the terms of reference for the third review set out in document 12. In your interventions, I would ask delegates to please be clear with proposed decision you are referring to. Furthermore, as noted by the Secretariat, we have a CRP from the European Union and its member states, Brazil, Norway, and Switzerland. It is CRP 1 on the in-session document tab. I will give priority in the speakers list to parties, and I will take the first intervention regarding the proponents of the CRP, and the first one on the list is the European Union.
Thank you, Mr. President. The European Union and its member states would like to thank the Secretariat for the updated information on matters relating to the Global Environment Facility. We're also thankful for the report from the Global Environment Facility Council to the 6th Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention. The European Union and its member states take note of the information provided. We believe that the Global Environment Facility holds a central position within the financial mechanism of the Convention. It plays an essential role in assisting parties to meet their obligations. The European Union and its member states also take note of the information provided on the work undertaken within the specific international program. It provides in a transparent manner the process which has been made with the specific international program since its inception. The European Union and its member states encourage parties and other relevant stakeholders in a position to do so, to increase efforts to increase the funding available in the specific trust fund to support parties in undertaking critical implementation efforts of the specific international program. We suggest leaving the choice of a prolongation of the specific international program to COP7, where the results from the third review can contribute to a well-founded decision. Therefore, the draft decision on financial mechanism needs to be amended in paragraphs 8 and 9. The European Union and its member states would also like to thank the Secretariat for the work undertaken in preparing for the third review of the financial mechanism and agree with the suggested terms of reference for this review. In general, the European Union and its member states encourage and promote increased funding to the financial mechanism from all stakeholders in a position to do so. We also encourage the Secretariat to continue its cooperation on the financial mechanism with the Global Environment Facility Council, especially considering the 9th replenishment of GEF in 2026. The European Union and its member states thank the Secretariat for preparing a draft decision related to this agenda item. Although we largely support the proposal, there are some points in the draft decision that we would propose being modified. The EU and its member states, Brazil, Norway, and Switzerland, have submitted a CRP with some suggested amendments to the draft decision on financial mechanism. The CRP seeks to streamline the suggested draft decision while not anticipate the 9th replenishment of the Global Environment Facility. The CRP also aims to clean up some language that is preempting the decision on this specific international program, a potential decision that shall be discussed at COP7. We would like to welcome the distinguished colleague from Brazil to comment on the suggestions in the CRP. Thank you.
Thank you, the European Union. I would like to give the floor now to Brazil, another of the co-sponsors of the CRP1.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for giving us the floor. Since this is the first time we are taking the floor, we would like to express our appreciation to the hospitality of the government of Switzerland and also to the Secretariat for organizing this meeting. Brazil would like to express our appreciation to the European Union, Switzerland, the United Kingdom, and Norway for their partnership and constructive engagement in streamlining and presenting the conference room paper on financial mechanism. We recognize the essential role that the financial mechanism established under Article 13 of the Minamata Convention plays in supporting developing countries in meeting their obligations. The Convention presents complex implementation challenges, from the replacement of mercury-based technologies to the need for sustained technical assistance and capacity building, and the financial mechanism through both the Global Environmental Facility and the specific international program has been crucial in enabling progress in these areas. We would like also to support the important statement made by the African Group with regards to the need for predictable and additional financing for the effective implementation of the Convention, and we emphasize the importance of ensuring that mercury-related priorities receive due consideration in the 9th replenishment of the GEF. Brazil would also like to highlight that in preparing this proposal, we sought to preserve the core elements of Decision 1/5 and to build upon Decision 5/1, introduced by Brazil and adopted at COP5, which marked a milestone in recognizing the disproportionate vulnerability of indigenous peoples to mercury pollution and their essential role in the implementation and governance of the Convention. The proposed amendments, therefore, make explicit the mandate for the Global Environmental Facility to fund two key priorities. First, the update of Minamata initial assessments, as recommended by the Implementation and Compliance Committee, and second, the monitoring of mercury levels in human health and the environment, in line with Articles 19 and 22 of the Convention. Finally, we underscore the importance of ensuring the meaningful participation of indigenous peoples in the design and implementation of GEF-supported projects. Brazil is proud to represent 391 indigenous peoples whose territories and traditional knowledge are deeply intertwined with ecosystems directly affected by mercury pollution. Indigenous peoples are among the most exposed to its impacts due to their close relationship with nature, yet they are also essential actors in the search for solutions. Their participation is therefore not only a question of equity, but a prerequisite for effective and culturally grounded implementation of the Convention. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Brazil. So we have Norway on the speakers list, another of the co-proponents.
Many thanks, Mr. President. And since this is the first time that Norway takes the floor, I would like to thank you, Mr. President, the Bureau and the Secretariat for your excellent preparations for this Conference of the Parties. We also thank Switzerland and Geneva for the generous hospitality. Norway thanks the EU and its member states, Brazil and Switzerland, for the cooperation on the CRP1, which we are pleased to support as co-sponsor. We also appreciate its cross-regional support. I echo the intervention of the EU and its member states just now, and let me then just add that, like others, Norway would like to note that COP1, in its decision 1/5, provided substantial guidance to the financial mechanism also in the long term. This guidance, in addition to the Convention text, remains valid and relevant for the functioning of the financial mechanism. Our proposed text in CRP1 makes targeted and limited additions, and we hope this could receive support from this COP. Finally, Norway thanks all donors to the financial mechanism and urge all parties within their capabilities and other stakeholders to contribute to the mechanism. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Norway. I have on my list Mauritania.
Thank you, President. I'm intervening on behalf of African region. The African region recognizes the central and critical role of two entities that constitute the financial mechanism of the Minamata Convention in Mercury, namely the Global Environmental Facility, GEF, Trust Fund, and the Specific International Program.
Mauritania, could you turn your microphone towards you, please? Thank you.
Africa has benefited from these two mechanisms since they become operational. We sincerely appreciate the financial contribution from the various donors to the GEF and the SIP to support capacity building and technical assistance since its inception. We equally welcome the approval of the new enabling activity of the GEF Council following the review of the implementation of Article 7 of the Convention. We invite donors to continue their support to the party of the Minamata Convention, especially the African region, both with GEF 9 replenishment and SIP. Africa considers the urgent need to build on Minamata initial assessment, which were developed during the ones of the Minamata Convention to assist developing country and country with economy in transition, to assess our mercury stocks and sources, prepare of the Convention's implementation and build our national capacities. The mercury inventories developed as part of MAIs provided crucial baseline data for monitoring process and reducing mercury emission and release over time. The African region, therefore, called for an additional guidance to the GEF to supplement the guidance outlined in decision MC1/5. This guidance will facilitate the effort of developing countries and countries with economy in transition to further identify our source mercury stocks and sources, as well as develop an update of initial inventory of mercury emission and release and other inventory needed for the effective implementation of that relate to our legally binding obligation under the Convention. We thus support the proposal as contained in draft decision document 6/9 to request the GEF to include such support as part of facilities enabling activity support available to parties. Finally, the African region strongly supports the extension of the SIP for an additional period of 7 years at the 7th meeting of the Conference of the Parties, noting that the third review of the financial mechanism is scheduled to take place at the same meeting. Thank you, President.
Thank you. Mauritania, on behalf of the Africa region, Pakistan has the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Pakistan would like to, is taking chair on behalf of Pakistan. It's not necessarily Asia Pacific, but obviously the importance of technical assistance was discussed in the region and everybody thought that this is an important area. We really appreciate the GEF's funding for mercury provided to developing countries to prepare Minamata initial assessments and artisanal small-scale gold mining national action plans, and to undertake projects designed to support implementation of particular articles of the Convention. Uninterrupted and significant sources of funding for environmental protection generates high-quality outcomes and helps to meet international climate goals. Predictable and accessible finance, technology transfer, and capacity building are extremely important for developing countries to fully phase out the mercury products and processes. We also appreciate the contribution of GEF. Chair, the document MC/COB.6/13 highlights the
it provides an analysis of national reports and which reveals that insufficient funding, reflecting the gap between the needed resources and the resources that are available, needs to be addressed, and lack of technical capacity at the national level, including a lack of trained personnel preventing the deployment of alternative technologies, insufficient institutional capacity and regulatory framework hindering technology assessments, inadequate capacity and capability for data collection and monitoring, and limited access to alternative technology, both because of financial constraints and domestic unavailability of suitable technologies are the main causes for lack of implementation. Although Jeff's contribution is there, but the report clearly highlights the need for more financing, capacity building, and technology transfer. There are a lot of projects which are already ongoing. Pakistan would suggest a mechanism for information sharing and best practices, just to enhance capacity of the developing countries for the implementation of Minamata Convention. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So I have on my list South Africa, the United States, Switzerland, Uganda, Ecuador, Indonesia, and Iran. Canada, so I just have a question, just for me to be more clear. I gave the floor to Mauritania, speaking on behalf of the Africa Group. Now I have South Africa and I have Uganda also. So I wonder if one country is going to speak on behalf of the Africa Group, or there's many countries speaking on behalf of the Africa Group. So when taking the floor, please make that reference for my clarity, so I know then much better when I have to make a ruling, the importance of the intervention, if it's is on behalf of a group of countries or is a national intervention. Please do so when you take the floor. So South Africa is the first one on the list.
Thank you, Mr. President. South Africa extends her sincere appreciation to you, the Bureau, and the Secretariat for excellent organization of this meeting, and also to the government of Switzerland for their hospitality. We align with the statement made by both distinguished delegates of Sierra Leone earlier on and Mauritania on behalf of the Africa region. It is necessary to strengthen the financial support to eliminate mercury-added products. For South Africa, we do have alternatives that are technically available. However, we do have a specific issue relating to affordability of these alternatives, and this poses a barrier for South African public health programs, specifically linked to the phasing down and the ultimate phase out. We need agency to deal with this matter. The reality is that many developing nations would need support at a multilateral level to accelerate the phase down and ultimate phase out. The ambition to end, for example, dental amalgam use in government insurance program will need to be matched with equally ambitious financial support under this convention. South Africa reiterates the establishment of a contact group to consider, amongst others, the CRP that has been introduced, and to also strengthen the support for a dedicated global program to eliminate dental amalgam. I thank you.
Thank you very much, South Africa. United States.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to Brazil, the EU, and Switzerland and Norway for putting forward the CRP. I do think overall it is a very good draft decision, and I think that we're broadly supportive of it. We do have one or two concerns. I think in particular there is some language I would propose to change before adoption of the CRP. I've heard some different views in the room, Mr. President, so I am happy to read those changes in now, but if there are further discussions, I could, of course, wait until that time. So I will defer to you on the best way forward for that, Mr. President.
So make the general statements, and then when we listen to all the other speakers, we will see the way forward.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. My suggestion then would be in paragraph 8 of the CRP, we would want this this guidance to pertain only to the focal area that is relevant to the Minamata Convention. So we would, or that is Minamata allocation is contained in. So we would remove the references to the biodiversity and climate change focal areas and have this decision just focus on integrated programs and the chemicals and waste focal area. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being clear. Switzerland, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. As this is the first time this delegation is taking the floor, we would like to thank the Secretariat for the organization of this meeting, and we also would like to express our appreciation to you, Mr. President, for your guidance throughout this week. We thank the EU and its member states, Brazil and Norway, for the common work on CRP1. We would like to echo their intervention made by our co-proponents. The proposed addition made in CRP1 are limited and very targeted. They build upon the recommendation to the GEF made in decision MC1/5. And these recommendations are still relevant and valid. So we would like to note here that as part of those recommendations in MC1/5, there is mercury added product content in the list of what we invite the GEF to consider to support for the implementation of the Minamata Convention. And this covers all mercury added product. So we suggest, and this is what is reflected in CRP1, that we build upon the existing recommendation and add what is coming on top of those valuable and valid recommendation. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Switzerland, for the wishes as well. Uganda is the next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me the floor. Given that Uganda is speaking for the first time, allow me to thank the government of Switzerland for hosting this meeting, and also the Secretariat on the Minamata Convention for convening the COP. Uganda is in support of the position of the Africa region regarding the present note on financial resources and mechanism as articulated by Mauritania. Uganda extends its gratitude towards the development partners contributing to the GEF and to the specific international program to support capacity building and technical assistance. Mr. President, Uganda appreciates the grave impacts of mercury and mercury compounds on human health and the environment, and the need to act on these. Uganda therefore welcomes the draft decision in the present note requesting the GEF to, among others, support parties' efforts to identify mercury stocks and sources and to develop and update inventories of mercury emissions and releases and other inventories needed for implementation of the provisions of the convention that relate legally binding obligations building on the Minamata Convention initial assessments. Uganda similarly encourages the Global Environment Facility in reporting project results to provide data and information on mercury reduction and avoidance, as well as on efforts to advance the effective management and participation of indigenous peoples, women, youth, and local communities to improve the understanding of any measurable results achieved. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Ecuador is the next speaker on the list.
Thank you very much, President. Ecuador has the honor of making this statement also on behalf of Bolivia, Colombia, Brazil, and the body within the Andean community which deals with this issue for us. Since we're taking the floor for the first time, we'd also like to echo our thanks to the government of Switzerland for hosting us here again in Geneva, and to the Secretariat, to you and to your colleagues for the way in which you're running the meeting. We had a general statement, but we'll send that into the Secretariat given the speed of the meeting, and we'll just deal with 4A. We would like to put on record our acknowledgement of the SIP, which has had sustained growth and provided considerable technical and financial and monitoring support to countries, including those in our region. It is clear that this COP urges states and other donors to continue to contribute resources to it so that it can continue to work, so that its scope can be expanded, and so that it can support countries in the implementation of the Convention, especially in respect of initiatives related to safety and health. It's also necessary to have us in our region continue our work with the Andean Observatory, which comes forward with information and good practices which help us greatly and strengthen its role as a regional platform on these issues. On the basis of our experience, our countries would support the draft for decision, and we'd like to thank the proponents because we acknowledge the negative impact of mercury on not only the environment but also on human health, especially among the most vulnerable groups in the population, who include local communities, indigenous populations, women and children. And of course, it also has an impact on law when you have illegal and criminal mining causing mercury release. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ecuador.
Thank you, Chair. Since this is the first time we're taking floor, Indonesia thanks the government of Switzerland for graciously hosting the 6th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Minamata Convention. Indonesia welcomes the 9th GIF replacement and call for reliable, accessible funding to help developing countries meet Minamata Convention goals. We support close coordination with the GEF, with the global framework on chemical funds to avoid duplication and strengthen impact. Indonesia promotes inclusive governance and urges consistent use of indigenous people and local communities to respect identities and ensure policy clarity. Transparent reporting is key to accountability and supporting affected communities. We remain committed to inclusive action and effective implementation of the Convention. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Indonesia. Next on my list is Iran.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since this is the first time my delegation take the floor, I would like to appreciate you, Mr. President, Secretariat, and host country for the excellent arrangement of this COP6. We would like to express our sincere appreciation to the specific international program for its valuable support in strengthening the sustainable institutional capacities of parties for the effective implementation of the Minamata Convention. We wish to emphasize the importance of increasing SIP funds, given the significant challenges and needs that developing countries face in fulfilling their obligation under this convention. However, it is regrettable to note that unlike the SIP, the other financial mechanism, the Global Environment Facility, which by nature should be truly global, has pursued a discriminatory approach towards certain country parties to the convention. None of the Iranian proposals submitted to the GEF Council have been funded, as the Council has not even agreed to include them on its agenda for consideration. This is a situation that is not acceptable for us. We strongly believe that the GEF resources must be available and accessible to all member states without discrimination. I thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Iran. Canada.
Thank you, Mr. President. As this is the first time Canada is taking the floor, I would like to thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to working with you this week. And we also thank the Bureau and the Secretariat for all their work in preparing us for this meeting. And we thank the host country of Switzerland for their generosity in having us here once again. We would like to thank the European Union, Brazil, Norway, and Switzerland for their conference room paper, which makes improvements to the draft decision on the financial mechanism. Canada appreciates the clear additional guidance to the GEF in this conference room paper, which supports updates of the Minamata initial assessments and the monitoring of human exposure to mercury, as well as environmental concentrations of mercury. Accurate data from these efforts will be crucial to inform the future effectiveness evaluations of the treaty. In particular, we are very happy to see a focus on broadening the participation of Indigenous peoples in the implementation of projects and programs undertaken under the Convention. However, we do question the reordering of Indigenous peoples in the new paragraph 6. Globally, due to their reciprocal relationship with ecosystems and high exposure to risks, Indigenous peoples bear a disproportionate burden of the effects of mercury pollution. Canada sees it as extremely important to acknowledge that we, as parties, should respect, promote, and consider human rights and the rights of Indigenous peoples in accordance with relevant international obligations and instruments. For this reason, we suggest that the original ordering of the list be retained. Thank you.
Thank you. Canada. Maldives.
Thank you, Mr. President. As this is the first time Maldives is taking the floor, I wish to express our sincere appreciation to the government of Switzerland for their generous hospitality and to the Secretariat for the excellent organization of this meeting. The Maldives supports the draft decision on the financial mechanism. We welcome the continued strengthening of the GEF in addressing mercury pollution. In particular, we express strong support for the proposed extension of the SIP, which remains crucial for maintaining mercury management capacities, especially in small island developing states like us. We underscore that access to financial resources must be simplified, especially for seats that face unique vulnerabilities and often operate with limited institutional capacity. The Maldives therefore supports the adoption of this draft decision and encourages that the specific needs and circumstances of seats be explicitly reflected in the upcoming review of the financial mechanism at the COP7. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Maldives. Now I give the floor to Colombia.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, President. The Colombian delegation would like to endorse what was said by Ecuador on behalf of the member states of the Andean community. Since this is the first time Colombia is taking the floor, we'd like to express our gratitude to the government of Switzerland for its hospitality and to the Secretariat for the excellent organization of the meeting. I should also like to express personally to you our confidence in your ability to be chairman and wish you full success in doing so. We're grateful for the submission of the documents under this agenda item, and we'd also like to express our gratitude to donors for their contribution to the financial mechanism on the understanding that providing funds to help developing countries implement the action they need to take is essential for the proper functioning of the Convention. Turning to the draft decision which has been submitted for the consideration of the parties, my delegation believes it important to provide specific guidelines for the financial mechanism and especially for the GEF. Colombia believes that these guidelines are fundamental if the financial mechanism is to provide appropriate support for the work which developing countries in particular have to do in complying with their obligations under the Convention. In addition, Colombia believes it essential that we explicitly retain the reference to the fact that the GEF should update inventories on mercury emissions and releases, given the relevance of this information for the correct taking of decisions and the evaluation of the implementation of the Convention. It's also crucial that GEF take into account the deadlines established in the Convention, particularly in respect of the elimination of mercury-containing products. Only this way can we ensure that resource programmation is aligned in temporal and technical terms with the targets to be hit by states party. Colombia also thinks it is essential that we extend the SIP for an additional 7 years, as suggested in the decisions adopted by previous conferences of the parties. Colombia feels it important that the decision on the extension of the SIP be taken as soon as humanly possible, because it would provide some certainty to the states party and it would also make it possible for them to more effectively plan the future action they intend to take and the future projects which are to be run under the SIP. These include technical assistance and capacity building, of course. Colombia would therefore suggest that in paragraph 8 of the decision proposed, we delete the word potential from the first line. Last but not least, we agree with the exercise carried out by the Governing Board, and we hope that it will conclude its analysis on the extension of the programme and the impact thereof, so that the Conference of the Parties can have something to look at from them at COP7. The analysis should clearly reflect the resources necessary to support developing countries in the effective implementation of the Convention and on burdens caused and outcomes expected. We need to be practical, effective, and closely aligned with the goals of the Convention in what we decide to do. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Many thanks, Colombia.
You have the floor.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since this is the first time Sri Lanka delegation taking the floor, we greatly appreciated the Switzerland government for their hospitality and Minamata Secretariat and UNEP for excellent arrangements to conduct this meeting. Sri Lanka appreciates the continued support provided through the financial mechanism of the Minamata Convention, particularly the Global Environment Facility and the specific international program. These mechanisms have played an essential role in enabling developing countries and small island developing states to meet their obligations under the Convention. Through the support of the GF, Sri Lanka has implemented key enabling activities to strengthen institutional, legal and policy frameworks for mercury management. In particular, these initiatives have facilitated the inventory development, phase out of mercury-added products in the health sector and the safe interim storage of mercury waste. Sri Lanka also acknowledged the important role of the specific international program, which has supported capacity building and institutional strengthening in developing countries. Continued accessibility and predictability of SIP resources are crucial for countries like Sri Lanka to sustain progress made in mercury phase out, monitoring and environmentally sound management of mercury waste. In reviewing the financial mechanism, Sri Lanka emphasizes the need for adequate, accessible and timely financial support aligned with national priorities and the implementation needs. identified under the Convention. It is also important to ensure simplified procedures and enhance coordination between the JEF, SIP and other related funding sources to maximize the effectiveness and coherence of financial assistance. Sri Lanka reiterates its commitment to implementing the Minamata Convention and calls upon the international community to continue strengthening the financial mechanism, ensuring achieving the global objectives of protecting human health and the environment from mercury pollution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. The delegate from Sri Lanka, Antigua and Barbuda. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And since this is the first time we are taking the floor, I extend congratulations to you on your conduct of the meeting, to the Secretariat for their hard work, and to our gracious hosts, the Government of Switzerland. Antigua and Barbuda welcomes the report of the JEF and wishes to highlight a specific project under the program, which is the implementation of sustainable low and non-chemical development in small island developing states, which has achieved synergies across the chemicals and waste focal area in an integrated manner. Several countries have been supported under this program, to include Antigua and Barbuda, Barbados, Belize, Dominican Republic, Guyana, Suriname, St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis, and Trinidad and Tobago, and at an allocated budget of $11 million. This initiative has undertaken reviews of the legislative and policy framework, development of standards and technical guidance, and guidance on hazardous waste, to name a few. Antigua and Barbuda welcomes the further support of the JEF to the development of impactful programs within the Caribbean region as it relates to mercury and mercury-added products. We also look forward to the support in the upcoming Global Chemicals Monitoring Program. Also, as a party that has benefited from this specific international program, we've also taken steps to ensure the sustainability of the programs established through this mechanism. Specifically, as it relates to CRP1, we thank the proponents and generally support the proposal, and we are ready to engage accordingly. We wish to also express support for the intervention made by the Canadian delegation regarding Indigenous peoples. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Antigua and Barbuda. Suriname.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the national intervention of the Republic of Suriname, and it is the first time that our delegation takes the floor. We wish to sincerely thank the Secretariat of the Minamata Convention for the excellent organization of this conference, and Switzerland for kindly hosting us. Suriname recognizes that it is a significant challenge for countries to fully comply with Article 7 of the Minamata Convention on Artisanal and Small-Scale Gold Mining. Suriname wishes to express its deep appreciations to all our development partners, especially the Global Environmental Facility, for their valuable support through its financial mechanism under the JEF Gold Program. We are grateful for the technical, technological, and capacity building assistance provided through the Environmental Management for a Sustainable Artisanal Gold Mining Project, implemented over 8 years, and the ongoing JEF Gold Planet Project, now in its 3rd year. These initiatives have been instrumental in supporting our National Action Plan, promoting good practices, and advancing the regulation and formalization of the artisanal and small-scale gold mining sector. Suriname values this continued partnership as we work toward a more sustainable and mercury-free future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Suriname, for that intervention. That concludes the party's list of speakers. Now it's time to give the floor to observers on this particular agenda item. So we see no observers wanting to take the floor. So we will thank you for these interventions on both decisions related to financial resources and mechanism and to the agenda item in general. I would like first to summarize regarding the draft decision on document 12, and then I will move to draft decision in document 9 and CRP 1. So for sub-agenda point 4E, little Roman 3, on the review of the financial mechanism, I've heard general support for this draft decision and the terms of reference for the third review set out in document 12. So now the COP enters in decision-making mode. I note support by parties to the draft decision as contained in document 12 regarding the terms of reference for the third review of the financial mechanism. So my proposal is that the COP adopts decisions set out in document 12, pending confirmation from the budget group that any budgetary implications have been accommodated for the budget 26-27. Are there any objections to this proposal? United States, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I noted in my intervention previously, we would not be able to accept the adoption of this decision without the change I mentioned in my intervention regarding to the paragraph with the other focal points. So if that language regarding the biodiversity and climate change focal points is removed, we can accept your proposal.
So the United States, I think your intervention is in relation with document 9 and not document 12. I'm asking for document 12. If I am wrong, please enlighten me.
My apologies, Mr. President. I thought you were referring to CRP 1.
No, I'm talking about the terms of reference. So once again, I will pose the question to the COP. Can we adopt the decision set out in document 12? Are there any objections to that proposal? I see no objections. It is decided pending confirmation from the budget group. Excellent. You see, no group. All right. So we'll move to sub-agenda items little Roman 1 and 2 of agenda item 4E and the decision contained in document 9. So I heard many parties stressing the importance of the GEF and SIP and expressing their appreciation to the donors of the two components of the financial mechanism of the convention. Many parties have also expressed the need for a strong GEF9 replenishment and for additional funding for SIP to continue support parties to implement the convention. Many parties also expressed support to the proposed decision in document 9. Furthermore, I take note of the proposals in the CRP1 submitted by the EU and its member states, Brazil, Norway, and Switzerland to amend the language in the draft decision in document 9. And several parties also made proposals on that regard. So, because I see that we just need some minor adjustments on that CRP1 that has been proposed, my intention now is just to set a small group of interested parties, especially those that sponsor the CRP1 and those who have those specific requests. I also noted that Colombia spoke about paragraph 8 of document 9, which is now reflected on paragraph 10 of the CRP1 as the new proposal. So if that group can meet, among themselves, the group of speakers that we had in plenary, and try to solve the issues, as well as what we heard from the Africa group with regards to inventories, which I don't see in the CRP1 as of now, and perhaps with a frank conversation, we might not need to set up a contact group to discuss this CRP. Is that agreeable to all? Or let's pose the general question: do anybody has any objection to proceed in such fashion? So I will task one of the sponsors of the CRP1 to report to me accordingly. Thank you very much. So that is the end of our morning plenary. I was really worried when I began that the Monday schedule of work was really packed. And I congratulate everybody that we ended right on time. So thank you to the speakers. Thank you, Jeff, Secretariat. And we will go for the housekeeping announcements as customary, and then we can all go to the side events or special events as well as lunch.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'd just like to leave you with a few housekeeping notes. Parties may submit conference room papers by email to the Secretariat at mea-minamata-crp@un.org, and that'll be displayed on the screen shortly. Statements and interventions. Please, to facilitate interventions, we invite you to send your interventions in writing ahead of delivery to Abiodun Diajani and Nelson Cahill, as will be displayed on the screen ahead shortly. We'd ask you to just please take a photograph of those emails and have them on hand. For observers that wish to deliver statements or make interventions, a reminder to approach the conference officer's desk at the front of the plenary hall to obtain a nameplate and ID card at least 30 minutes before you intend to take the floor. DSA will be distributed at 1:30 today in the common area on the second floor, and it will remain open until 5 o'clock today. Just a final reminder of the special event hosted by the Secretariat today in Room A. It starts at 1:15, and it's about driving effective and inclusive implementation of the Minamata Convention, and it will bring many voices to the table. We will resume this afternoon's plenary at 3 p.m. Back to you.
Thank you, and we will resume at 3 p.m. as Brenda said, with agenda item 4B, followed by agenda item 4A. Thank you very much. The plenary is adjourned.